In 2018, in Kenya, a conservation team watched something they had never seen before. A baby elephant had died of natural causes. The mother did not leave. She stood there for 2 days. She touched the body with her trunk. She pushed at it gently as if waiting for it to wake up. She made sounds the researchers had only heard a few times before. The question is uncomfortable but honest. Was she grieving? Or was she just confused? For most of history, science refused to say animals grieve. Grief requires memory of who was lost. It requires understanding that gone means forever. Scientists called it anthropomorphism, projecting human feelings onto animals. But the evidence kept piling up. And eventually, the science had to change. In 2011, a dolphin named Billy was found dead off the coast of Australia. Days later, researchers saw something that stopped them. Other dolphins who had known Billy refused to leave the area. They gathered in a circle. They stayed silent. Marine biologists at the time described it as a vigil. They used that word carefully, but they could not find a better one. In 2016, a cat in Brazil named Toldo was taken to a veterinarian who had cared for him many times before. The vet was sick. Toldo stayed at the clinic entrance after being discharged. He waited outside for 2 days. The vet passed away. Toldo still returns to the clinic door every morning. Stories like this exist in every culture, every country, every species. And they follow a pattern that looks exactly like human grief. Withdrawal, searching, vocal changes, loss of appetite. In 2018, a study at the University of Milan confirmed what pet owners already knew. Dogs who lost a companion dog showed behavioral changes. They slept more. They played less. They sought more attention. Some stopped eating. The researchers measured these changes against a control group. The grieving dogs were measurably different. Their behavior was not random. It followed the same arc as human grief. But the most powerful evidence comes from an animal most people do not think about when they think about grief. Geese. Geese mate for life. When a goose loses its partner, it does not immediately find another. Some never do. They stop flying with the flock. They stand at the edge of the pond staring at nothing. Konrad Lorenz, the Nobel-winning zoologist, described it this way. A goose who loses its mate behaves in exactly the same way as a person overcome by grief. He did not say similarly. He said exactly. What makes grief possible in animals is the same thing that makes it possible in us. Attachment. The brain forms bonds. When the bond is broken, the brain does not know what to do with the space left behind. In 2021, a study of elephants in Thailand found something remarkable. Elephants who lost a close family member had higher stress hormones months after the death. They also showed more social behavior, as if reaching for connection to fill the space. The researchers noted one detail that is hard to forget. The elephants who were closest to the deceased showed the strongest grief response. Distance in relationship predicted distance in grief. Just like humans. But there is a question underneath all of this that science cannot fully answer. What do animals understand about death? Do they know it is permanent? Or do they just know something is missing? In 2018, a study tested whether dogs could tell the difference between a living person and a dead one. The results were inconclusive. Dogs reacted differently to death. But whether they understood it, that remains unknown. What we do know is this. Animals respond to death with awareness. They do not walk past a dead companion as if nothing happened. Something registers. Something changes. In 2022, researchers at the University of Auckland reviewed 40 years of animal grief studies. Their conclusion was clear. The evidence that animals experience grief is now strong enough that the burden of proof has shifted. It is no longer about proving they grieve. It is about understanding how. What matters most is not what scientists call it. What matters is that the experience is real. The animal feels something, and that something reshapes their behavior, their hormones, their lives. For the animals who live with us, this has a direct meaning. When your cat sits by the door after another pet does not come home, she is not confused. She is waiting. When your dog sniffs the bed of someone who left, he is searching. The famous case of Hachiko is not extraordinary because one dog waited. It is extraordinary because we recorded it. Countless animals have waited. They have searched. They have grieved. We just were not watching. In Japan, before Hachiko died, people brought him treats and sat with him at the station. They understood what he was doing. They did not need science to tell them he was waiting for someone who never came. Grief in animals may not include the complex narratives humans build. They do not tell stories about the deceased. They do not hold funerals, but they carry the absence. And that is closer to grief than it is to nothing. The poet Mary Oliver wrote about a dog she lost. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees through the desert. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. What animals teach us about grief is this. You do not need to understand death to feel loss. You only need to have loved something. And that is something animals do as naturally as breathing. So if you have ever wondered whether your pet missed someone who left, the answer is yes. Not because they understand where that person went, but because they understand the shape of their absence. And shapes do not need words to be real.